Hey, y'all, welcome back. It is episode 312 of the Late Night Vision Show. If you are a night hunter, this is the stop that you need to be making every week, every Thursday, a brand new episode right here. And as always, I've got my main man, Jason Robertson, the owner of Outdoor Legacy, here joining us again. We are just going to start rambling through the spring. We're going to roll right through the summer and get y'all ready for hunting season. So what do you think, Jason? What do we got this week?
I think we got a good show. So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to lay out five. To be honest, I had more than five, but Hans limited me to five. I had 10, 11, 12, but he limited me to five bullet points here of things not to do, the don'ts, if you will. Don't do this when you're getting ready to buy a thermal scope. And so thermal scope, it could be a monocular as well. But guys, I'm telling you, I've got more, but he doesn't want y'all to know. So we're only going to give you five, but if you want to know the rest, just ask me. No, I'm just teasing.
We might do another show later on, maybe closer to hunting season, the other five. Maybe we'll share that.
I'm teasing. No, these are some good ones right here. And I think it's really important for anybody that is considering buying a thermal optic. I mean, night vision as well. Some of these will apply there as well. A lot of these are going to be for first-time buyers, but not necessarily all of them. I mean, these can apply to people that already have a thermal scope and are doing it, and upgrading to another one. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to be real quick about this, guys. But listen, Hans said it. Own Outdoor Legacy. This is what Hans and I do for a living. Is we don't do this. We don't do the podcast for a living, and we don't tell people what not to buy for a living. But we do sell thermal and night vision optics, thermal rifle scopes, handheld binoculars, helmet mounted, drones, whatever. If it's thermal or night vision, we sell it if it's made for hunting. And so we would love to have your business. Guys, you can call us at 877-350-1818. We will be happy to walk you through the whole process. Most of the people that call us, or at least a lot of them, say, I don't know where to start. I'm confused. There's so many optics. Hold my hand through this. What do we need to do? Other people call and say, hey, I've been thermal hunting for, as long as y'all have, but I'm ready for another optic and I need to know what I need to get. And so anywhere in between, we're very happy to help you. We use in the field, hunt with every single optic that we sell. And if we don't sell it and you don't see it on the website, there's probably a reason. We've used a lot of optics that we choose not to sell. And you may go, well, why is that? Call us. We'll be glad to tell you and compare to other things that we do have. So guys, 877-350-1818. The web address is going to be on the screen here, but it's Outdoor Legacy Gear, GEAR, outdoorlegacygear.com. We would love to have your business, love to help you, offer advice. But today, you don't have to buy anything. We're going to give you five what we feel are good pieces of advice. These are mistakes that we see people make over and over and over. And we want to help you prevent you from wasting money or making a purchase that you would regret later for one of these reasons. And you know what? You may go out and you may buy your scope from somebody besides Outdoor Legacy. And, while we're sad about that, we want your business. If you're going to buy it from somebody, we still want to make sure that you don't make these mistakes wherever you choose to make your purchase from. So, Hans, why don't you get this list started off?
Yeah. So, this is from years of experience talking day to day with customers and what, the feedback that we get with their buying experience from wherever they bought their optics from. But, this is us taking, Jason, you and I on a busy day, 40 to 50 phone calls a day, each sometimes, and just years of doing that. And these interactions and what we've put together this list. And I think we've got some good starting places of what not to do, because there are a lot of, this is an expensive item, an optic, whether it be a night vision scope or a thermal scope. I mean, these are not inexpensive toys. And yes, you can consider it a toy, just like you might consider your bass boat a toy. But what we want to do is make sure we give you some guidelines here of what to follow. So one of the biggest mistakes when people call in and they say, hey, I bought this optic and I need to upgrade or I need to get something else. One of the biggest things that we hear is they're buying an optic that has the incorrect base magnification for what they're doing. And if you think about, a guy that's a coyote hunter or even a hog hunter, and their average shot's over 100 yards, and they buy a 1.5 power base magnification scope or a 2 power scope, that might be a little bit on the low side. Those guys and girls will call up and say, you know what, I bought this scope and it's just not enough. It's not enough for what I need. I'm having to always use the magnification. And I know every time I use magnification, I'm cutting my resolution. And if you talk about it long enough to them, they're like, man, I just wasted a couple $1,000 because I bought this and now I'm having to turn around, go through the process all over again because I'm not happy. So really the base magnification, Jason, we talk about this all the time. It's probably the most important spec that you really have to take into account, along with, however much as far as resolution that you want, but having the correct base magnification. And really you may say, well, how do I know if I have the correct base magnification? That's a good question. What you need to do is make sure that, we can sit here and say, oh, well, the average shooting distance below 100 yards is, 1.5 to 2 power is fine. But once you get into that 100, 200 yards, it could vary. Some people may like a little bit less magnification. Some people, if they feel like, we talk about this all the time, if their eyes are not as young as they used to be, they may prefer a little bit more magnification. But it's important to talk to somebody that's used all these optics to decide what the correct base magnification is for you. But that is one of the biggest mistakes, and a very costly mistake, because what that does is you get that optic, you find out very quickly that it's not right for you. And then you have to go through the process all over again, time, money invested into the process just to get another scope that's going to be right for you. So that is, I would say, my top biggest don't do of the whole process.
So quickly on that, I agree. And it goes both ways. You can buy too little and you can buy too much. I mean, there's a lot of guys that call and say, why is there only 3 or 4 thermal scopes that are 4 power? I mean, I'm shooting 5, 8, 9 power on my daytime scope, and they're immediately looking at these 4 power optics. And then you start talking to them and you're like, 4 power is going to be way too much for you, but daytime does not correlate to nighttime, not always. And so you're right. You've really, it's hard to know. And I know when I'm talking to customers, sometimes I feel like they might get a little frustrated or like, I want to talk about the scopes. And this guy keeps asking me about every shooting scenario. And I'm just trying to make sure that I get that feel, because here's my opinion on this. And I know Hans is going to agree with this. Once I figure out by asking, loaded questions, these questions, I'm trying to get information and answers. And when I determine where I think this person needs to be, and I'm going to say, hey, do you agree? Yeah, okay. Let's just say it's a 3 power, I will no longer discuss 2 power optics anymore. They're completely wiped off the table, because that's not going to work. And so what we're trying to do is actually narrow this down. But what sometimes, and I know it's easy to do, is to say, okay, yeah, I need a 3 power. That's what I need. That's what I want. But then you see this 2 power dangling over there, and there's something about it you like. Oh, I think let's go back to that. Like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, that's just something to consider. One last thing that I'll say on this before we go to the next one is I actually was replying to an email, and this is another example. This guy has it's fairly new. It's a discontinued model, but it's still new, good scope. It's a 3 power 640 optic. And he said, when I zoom it up and I get into the 12 and the 24 power, he said, it's really grainy and pixelated. And he goes, I don't like that. Well, immediately, I know that that's just the way it's going to be. It's just a resolution issue. It doesn't, he thought it was just his scope. And so he was like, I'm looking at this scope. Will this solve my problem? And the scope he was looking at was a 640 2 power. And he was like, I'm ready to buy it. Is this going to solve my problem? Yes or no? I'm like, oh my gosh. He's actually going backwards. He doesn't have enough magnification, and he's trying to go down to a 2, but it was a newer scope, so he felt like it was going to solve his problem. So anyway, basically I had to tell him, sorry, wrong direction to go there. But anyway, just something to think about. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is a big one with me, and this is one of those things, years of experience. We've just seen this over and over and over. And that is, don't buy a thermal scope today without at least considering the idea of a purchase of a thermal handheld, a monocular, in the future. And so what I mean by that is, listen, if you've got, let's just say a budget that's a very fair budget of $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, you can get you a really good thermal scope today for that. Way better than you've ever been able to get before. But what you can't get is a good thermal scope and a good thermal monocular. You know, it's kind of one or the other. So no problem. But when you move up and you start getting into the, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 price range, you've got the opportunity to get a really good thermal scope and a really good thermal handheld. Right. And what happens is this is what Hans and I just see over and over. The guy goes, okay, I'm willing to spend $5,000-$6,000. This is the scope I want. And you say, well, have you thought about getting a handheld as well? Well, I don't have the budget for that. Well, you do. You just can't get a $5,000 or $6,000 scope. What if you split that up? No. I just want a scope. Well, what happens is, and I know there's a lot of you that are listening to this right now, and you're going to go, yep, that's right. You buy the scope, you get into it. If you really start using it and you're out there a lot, you get tired of holding that rifle up or leaning over the tripod, looking through it all night long, or maybe you've got a scope that you're taking off and using as a handheld, and you're trying to put it back on your rail. You realize, like, oh man, a handheld would be really, really nice. Yeah. But you don't realize that until you get out there and start doing it. And so often guys call back and they go, okay, I spent all my budget on this scope. I don't have much of a budget for a handheld. What can I get now? And so with this, I want to make a point. We're never not trying to get you to spend more money. It's not, hey, I've got a $5,000 budget, and we say, hey, buy a $5,000 scope and a $2,500 handheld. It's actually the other way. I'm saying you got a $5,000 budget. What if you got a $3,000 scope and a $2,000 handheld? You know, that's what I'm trying to do, is keep you within your budget, but get 2 optics for the price of 1. And where most people, and Hans, I know you're going to agree with this, where they have their really, really hard time is when they have the money to buy a good 640 optic, and that's what they want. But you say, well, if we split this, you can get a really good 384 resolution optic and then a good 384 handheld. And they can't get over the fact of, I've got 640 money. I want that image quality. I don't want to go down to a 384 resolution scope and sacrifice just to get a handheld. But I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to ask you this, would you agree that if you've got that kind of a budget, big enough for a scope and a handheld, you can get a good 640 scope, or you can get a good 384 handheld and a good 384 scope? Would you take the 2 optics over the 1?
Yeah, we've even done shows about, 2 optics are better than 1. I think everybody that calls in, at some point they will say, and we tell people, hey, when you're going to buy a scope today, but at some point you're going to want a monocular. And people were calling back and saying, you know what? I've done this for 6 months. I only had a scope. I've got to have a monocular. And it is nice. 2 optics are always going to be better than 1. You will find more coyotes, more hogs, whatever you're hunting at night. You will find more with a monocular. It's just proven. It's much more convenient and easy. You can scan while you're walking out into the fields, where you can't really do that very well with a rifle. You will catch more and see more and be more successful with that monocular as a tool in your bag, without a doubt. Now, having it, whether you're buying 2 optics on day 1, or if hey, I'm buying this and I know, in 6 months I'll have enough to get a monocular, then yeah, absolutely, that's fine. But consider that you're going, you're going to need or going to want two optics. It's two. I get guys that call in and say, man, I've been scanning with my rifle. My neck hurts. My back hurts. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. And hunting at night is supposed to be fun. And if you do it the correct way, it can absolutely be a blast. But don't spend a ton of money just to be uncomfortable. And if that means you're getting two 384 optics instead of one 640 optic, I promise you it is 100% worth it every time.
And I want to say one last thing on that. I just want to be sure, I think we've been clear. We're not trying to get you to spend more money. We're saying work within your budget. And again, I understand if you have a $2,000-$3,000 budget, $3,500, maybe you can't get both, and that's perfectly fine. You know, you may never own a handheld, but maybe you're saving up for that later. But a lot of times what I'll tell guys is, okay, don't have to buy it today, all right? But just consider it, and in your mind you go, well, I can spend this other $1,000, but if I don't spend it on the scope, it's still in my piggy bank, and that's my starter fund. It may be next week, it may be next month, it may be 2 years from now, but when you're ready to buy that second optic, that handheld or whatever it is, you've got it there. So all
right. Well, good job. Let's move on to the next one. The next one being, don't buy an optic based on one hunt. And what we mean by that, there's so many of you, whether you're from the South and you're a hog hunter, but you got a chance to go up north and shoot a wolf, or if you're a northern coyote hunter and you're shooting super wide open places, and once a year you come to Texas or Mississippi or Alabama to do a hog hunt. I get a lot of phone calls of guys saying, you know, I'm a coyote hunter. My average shot's 200 yards plus, and I'm hunting wide open fields, but I need an optic that I can also take to Texas that's going to work well within that capacity, because, you know, we go on a guide trip, and we go to Texas and we shoot hogs at close range. Well, I'm going to tell you what, it is very difficult to find an optic that checks every box for every application that you're wanting to do. Now, there's some optics out there that have some dual base mags, dual base magnification that helps you do that. But for the average hunter, it is best to choose an optic, and we say this all the time, it's best to choose an optic for what you're doing the most. That means if you're a coyote hunter in the Midwest and you're taking longer shots on smaller animals, you're going to want to tend to get a little bit higher, you know, that 3-power base magnification. If that means one time of year you're going to Texas and you might have a little bit too much base magnification, but you're still going out there and you're still shooting hogs and having a good time, so be it. But you don't want to make a decision on an optic and say, you know what, I go to Texas once a year, so I'm going to buy something that is a little bit lower base magnification than what I might need up north, because I want to have this edge, this right optic for this one hunt that I do a year. You don't want to do that. Doesn't make sense. Get it for what you're going to be doing the most often. Make your decision on what your primarily use is. And if you take it to Texas once or twice a year, you can just deal with it. It won't be that big of a deal, but don't make the mistake of getting into trying to choose an optic that does everything for every application, especially if that application is something that you rarely ever do. So that is, I'm going to say that's a big one as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. Hans, he gets credit for this one. He's brought this up to me over the years of talking to customers. Excuse me, and he's brought that up as, man, this guy wanted to buy the scope, and but he's worried about 2 times a year he goes to Georgia, and he's like, these 2 hunts, literally, like maybe he's going out and hunting 4 hours, 3 nights in a row, 2 times a year, versus this guy's hunting 2 nights a week the whole year up north hunting coyotes. It's like he's trying to buy based on this 1 or 2 hunts a year, and what that means is, yeah, you got a great scope for those 2 or 3 nights, but all your other time you're actually either struggling, or maybe you don't even know you're struggling, but you could be doing so much better. So no, I think I think it's a great one, Hans. So here's a big one, and I know this is gonna sound self-serving, so I'm gonna admit that up front, but I'm also going to turn and point some fingers back at us as well, what we're doing. So I'm going to start. I'm going to say, don't go buy a scope based on what you've seen in the Facebook, the Facebook thermal groups in the comments. Don't just go, read the comments and then go buy a scope. I would say the same thing, pointing some fingers back at us. Don't watch one of our videos and just go buy the scope. All right. There is number one. Let's pick on us first. You could watch our video on a review we've done and you say, oh my gosh, they just described me. This is the perfect scope for me. They described what I'm doing. I've got some experience. I know this is what I need. I'm going to go buy that optic. Well, could be, but there could be one small nuance that you didn't know about, or that we forgot to mention, or you didn't quite get, or just something that needs to be discussed, and it's not going to work exactly right on your rifle, or what have you. Or it may be, this one will work, but there's also this other one that you haven't seen the review of, or we haven't reviewed yet, or we're testing it, or whatever it is, and it's actually going to be for you better than that one. And so what you're doing is you're making a purchase based on partial information. You need to make sure you've got all the information, and you're going to get that by talking to somebody. I mean, again, we're going to be self-serving. Hopefully you're going to call us and talk to us and make the purchase from us. But even if it's another good quality dealer, and there's some out there, we're friends with some of them that are good guys that use all these optics. That's who you need to make sure you're talking to. And so now going back to the Facebook deal, if you listen to this show, we pick on Facebook a pretty good bit. And I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna try to bring this in to maybe so you'll understand. Hans, Ashley, myself, the three of us, we have a group text between the three of us, and we are constantly taking screenshots or sending links to Facebook posts, and we're just appalled by what we see there. We're appalled by some of the comments and the things that just terrible misinformation. So there's almost more misinformation than there is correct information. And what you get is you just get a lot of people, somebody ask a question, hey, what's the best whatever, or how does this compare to that? And the problem is you're getting everybody in the whole world that has a Facebook account can make a comment. Okay. They can give their opinion, good, bad. They may have never seen the optic, or they've just seen their optic, and maybe they've seen them both and they're still giving bad info. You've got to be very, very, very careful of that. So I'm going to compare this. You pick whatever field that you're in. I don't care if you are a doctor, a lawyer, a machinist, a real estate agent, a truck driver, whatever it is. You know how to do your job, and you know right from wrong, and you know when people are full of it. And you could go out to Facebook and you could find some group that's dedicated to whatever it is you do, and you see people ask questions. Maybe even you're in construction. You see somebody, hey, how do I hang this drywall? And you read the comments and your mind is blown. You're like, these people are getting the worst possible information. I don't care what you do for a living. You know what I'm talking about. And you're like, oh my gosh, who are these morons replying? Okay. So think about that now and apply that to a purchase like this, spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever, $10,000, $15,000. It's the same thing. I'm not saying everybody that's replying is morons, but what I am saying is the good answers a lot of times get drowned out. There's some guys that know their stuff. There's some other dealers that know their stuff. There's some that don't, but the good answers often just get drowned out. So what's the answer? So what were you going to say, Hans? Go ahead.
It's just how quick in that thread is somebody going to get called an idiot, and it's usually right away. So it's hard
usually the idiot calling somebody an idiot. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So what I would say is this. I know this sounds like some big self-serving. They'll just call us. Yes, that is what we want you to do. But it's the same thing in the comments on our shows. There's people that post things in there, and it's not good. Like, this is bad information. So you've got to be very careful. You're buying a tool. That's something that Hans and I really we push, is that this is a tool, and you got to buy the right tool for the job, and you need to talk to somebody who's used all the tools and understands the job. And if that's not us, there are other good dealers, and you need to seek those guys out. It's not always the first guy that posts and says, hey, give us a call. You need to figure out who is respectable, who is not, who is honest, who's really hunting with the stuff. And again, there are other good dealers, but just getting some comments, some replies, oh, this is the best one, go buy this, and then hopping on to Amazon or somewhere, and that's a guaranteed way to have you. Either you're gambling, you're gambling big time. Either you're going to get lucky and it's going to work, you're going to get unlucky and it's really bad. And then a lot of times, I think guys buy things and they just don't realize what they're missing. They don't realize they could have spent the same money or less and got something way better. So seek out the people that do this for a living. And I know you can say, well, yeah, but if I go to Facebook, I'm getting an unbiased answer. If I call a dealer, he's biased in some way. And that's a true possibility. But the problem is those people on Facebook are biased as well. They're biased to what they own, what they've looked at, what they like. And so you're always going to be some bias no matter what. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Hans, you got anything to add to that?
It's hard to weed through that. Everybody has this underlying, or it seems like a lot of people have underlying biases. But when you buy from, or when you consult with reputable dealers, and not just saying you have to consult with one, but if you use all the tools of information at your disposal, whether that be Facebook forums, internet forums, hunting forums, dealer advice, YouTube videos, if you take all of that into account, and if you deal with dealers that are selling a lot of different lines, a lot of different brands of optics. So if you call a dealer and they sell 1 or 2 brands, well, guess what they're going to recommend you buy? Either one of those 2 brands. If you deal with a dealer that sells 4, 5, 6 different brands, you get a wider array of recommendations that are going to come out. And that's, when people call up the brands that we sell, it's not like, hey, we don't care what brand you buy. We just hope that you buy from us, and we're going to make a recommendation, and you can take that and make your decision. But it really, at the end of the day, it's about buying an optic that you're going to be happy with. And we and all the dealers, there's a lot of great dealers out there, have a very vested interest in making sure that you do buy an optic that you're confident with and happy with. So let's the last one, man, Jason, and I'm probably not with optics, but I'm probably very guilty about this when it comes to buying a new toy, buying a tool, whatever I'm buying. I'm terrible at this. So don't buy an optic based on what it looks like. And you can take the word optic out, and for me, you can plug that in with lawnmower or anything. Because I'm like, man, look at that lawnmower. I like that color. That looks really good. But you're like, Hans, but that's for a yard that's half the size of yours. But yeah, man, look how cool it is. It's got headlights on it and looks really awesome. And that color
is
like,
mow it dark. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I'm terrible about this, man. And I need to take some of this advice when it comes to other avenues of my life. Don't buy it just because it looks cool. So there are a lot of optics, back in the day, pretty much just seemed like all the optics looked the same, the same form factor, the same color, a lot of the same features. But now, I mean, you've got traditional thermal style form factors. You've got tube style scopes. You've even got different colors to choose from now, which is unusual with, we've had scopes in the past that were gray. We've got tan scopes. And it's like you're getting more phone calls of people that say, man, I like the way the tube style scopes look, or I like the way the traditional, the smaller, more compact style scopes look. And really, It's guys that call up and they're using an AR style rifle and a bolt action rifle, and they want to switch an optic back and forth to whatever platform they're shooting on, and they like the compact style scope, but they really, because they're shooting a lot of different platforms, they really need a tube style scope that'll fit on an AR, a chassis, a bolt action, but they just don't like the tube style, or vice versa. They like the tube style scopes, and they're using a bolt action rifle and they're wanting to get into something else. I tell you, this is a tough one because we don't want to buy something that we look at and are like, oh man, I just don't like the way that looks. But at the same time, is it worth it to buy an optic that looks cool, but is not going to meet and fit all of your criteria in the boxes that you need to check off? I think that, if you, there's so many guys out there too that are buying optics, not nighttime or not thermal optics, but they'll buy daytime optics and they'll Cerakote it to match their rifles and different things. You have people asking about Cerakote and thermal scopes. I mean, it is, but I get it, man. It looks cool. It looks really, really cool, but we don't want to. Yeah, go ahead. You just want to make sure.
No. So I was just going to say this real quick and we'll kind of wrap this, but I told Hans this story, yesterday and last night. I'm going to tell it here, but I had a guy call and this guy had a very large budget. I mean, to be honest with you, he was looking at $10,000 optics and down, and he's going to be on a bolt gun. And so I'm immediately, it's fixed stock rifles only. So I'm immediately thinking of, the thermions, the adders, the bolts, the leaps. I mean, everything that's in a 30 millimeter tube. That's what this guy needed. And I started kind of bringing up some of these, and he goes, whoa. No, I don't like the way those optics look. I want more of the traditional thermal style, the blocky style. He goes, those look like thermal scopes. And I was like, yeah, but you're going to have a very hard time on, not all of them, but a lot of them getting the proper eye relief. You got multiple rifles. There's going to be some of these, you may not be able to get that scope far enough back. And, I'm kind of giving him the warning, and I'm just like thinking he's going to be okay. He's got spending a lot of money. And he said, no, he said, because when I show this to my buddies, I want them to know that it's a thermal scope. And he said, I think those 30 millimeter tube scopes look like a daytime scope and people won't know that I have a thermal. And I was blown away. And he was a nice guy. He was very serious about it. And he was like, it was just it. And I said, well, okay, I'm with you. But what if you buy this and you can't get it far enough back on some of your rifles? And he was like, I'll deal with it. I don't know. I mean, it was just hey, no problem. So we talked about the optics that hopefully work best for him, but it was 100% about what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it's funny. We sometimes have guys that go the opposite direction from that. They shy away from the more, compact or square blocky style scopes. They go, I want one that looks like a daytime scope. That looks like it'll be easier to use. And I'm thinking, oh, it's no easier. It's just in a different form factor. But whatever. So I guess what Hans and I are both saying on this, if all things are equal, let's say you're using an AR-15. You can use whatever you want. That's the beauty of the AR-15. That's what they call them is Barbie dolls for men. You can trick that thing out any way you want. You can do whatever you want, collapsible stock. You can use any of these optics. So you have more options. And at that point, if you do say, hey, you know what? I really like the compact style. You know what? I really like the 30 millimeter. Okay. That's all right. You can probably make it work. But there are going to be times that you're ruling out a scope that may be even less expensive or may have a better image quality or may do whatever just because of a body style. And you hate to limit yourself so much to that. But if it's something you're really hung up on, as long as it will, fit on your rifle and you're going to get the eye relief, you can do that. But it's, I hate to see people immediately rule out, a large portion of the optics on the market just because they don't like one body style or another. So guys, I think that's kind of a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this. These are all things, we didn't just make these up. These are things that we see over and over and over and over every week, every month, and it just repeats itself. And it's been on repeat for Well, I've been doing this 11 years and it just continues to repeat. And I get it. We're, all humans. And like Hans said, we could all take this same advice ourselves on things we're buying, outside of the thermal world. So it's something to be aware of. And at the end of the day, what I would say to you is what we're trying to do. And I know this is going to sound, you're going to think, oh, these guys are just, being, patronizing here, but it's the truth. We don't want to see you waste money or have buyer's remorse, make a purchase that you regret, or just not get the biggest bang for your buck. Okay. And that's what it's really about, because we've seen so much regret. And we're not talking about, buying pencil sharpeners. We're talking about spending real money, whether it's $500 for a night vision scope, whether it's, $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is. It's real money. It's a lot of money to you and it's a lot of money to us. And we just want to see you get the best that you can get, because there's more options than there ever has been. It's more confusing than it ever has been. And the right optic is out there for you. You just might need a little bit of help figuring out exactly which one that is. So guys, as we've already said, if you need help, if you're looking for an optic, we would love to have your business. You can give us a call at 877-350-1818. You can go to the website, see everything we got there, outdoorlegacygear.com. Hans, Ashley, myself, we're all here. We're happy to help you, walk you through the process, and figure out which optic is right for you. If you're ready to order, we've got 3 ladies in the office that are dedicated to customer service and helping you. If you want to do that online, you can, but a lot of guys say, man, I'm just a little nervous about it, or hey, I want to make sure I get just the right thing and the right battery. We got the ladies that can help you do that over the phone. You can call that phone number, and they are much sweeter and nicer than Hans and Ashley and I are. They're awesome to deal with. Yep. So call them anytime. Guys, you are already here at the Late Night Vision Show, but if you want to see more about the show, you can go to thelatenightvision.show.com. You can find all the past episodes there, but you can find them right here on YouTube or any of the podcast apps. If you're already listening there, you can go right there and find all the other episodes. And we are consistently coming back here every Thursday, delivering you new content, whether it's scope reviews, monocular reviews, discussing what's going on in the industry, doing questions and answers or interviews or whatever it is. You can find that all right here on the Late Night Vision Show. And then, as always, you can find Hans over at HANSETX on all the social medias as well as YouTube. You can find Ashley. He is on same place, all the social medias, including YouTube, at ROWETX. That's ROWEETX. So you can find him there as well. Guys, we really hope you enjoyed this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you like the topic, if you like this show, let us know in the comments. Go ahead and leave your comments. Either you like it, or if you want to hear another topic, if you want to learn about something else, drop it in the comments section. We'd love to do it. We would, not that we can get to every topic show that we want to, but a lot of these shows that we do are topics that have been generated from you, the listeners. So we appreciate that. And we definitely continue to appreciate your support this so many years later after we started this show. But we will see y'all soon. Next week will be episode 313 this Thursday, and every Thursday. We'll see y'all soon.